It's showtime, and we're live. Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining in today. It's a very interesting topic that we're going to talk about today, data led GTM. It's scary, it's fun, and it's something we can't do without. Yet, the times are changing so fast with AI telling us that it can do everything. It's a topic that I think all of us are talking about, discussing it with no clear answers. So, today we have with us Marta here, who's going to give us some of those answers, and thank you so much for joining in today and giving us this time. We already have a long list of questions ready for you. And we had some of our viewers who are already joining in send their questions in advance so that it doesn't get missed out. That's how important this topic is that we are touching based on today. Thank you for joining us. I'll first start with an introduction and then over to you. I will not do much of talking because I want you to tell us all about your templates, your processes, everything that is working out for you. So, Marta Turek is a co founder and chief data and revenue officer at Wilmaris Group, where she helps GTM teams turn first party CRM data, and we'll dive more deeper into what do we really mean by first party CRM data, into measurable revenue advantage. That means actually driving revenue and customers. With over 16 years of experience in digital marketing, data analysis, data science, she works very closely with CMOs, CROs, and helps them with revenue insights, driving smarter and data led decisions, and actually moving the needle and not just doing strategy, but actually building pipeline, customers, and going from that 0 to 1 and then 1 to 10 and then 10 to 100. So thank you so much, Marta, for joining us today. And over to you. If you could just tell us what made you get into data in the first place, and data led GTM particularly, not just data, but actually combining data, growth, GTM to drive revenue. So tell us a little bit about your journey so far, and then we'll go deep on the deep end of the questions.
Well, thank you so much for having me today. So my background, I started in paid search, and then I moved into strategy and building strategies for large, B2B, B2C clients. I worked with Virgin America, I worked with Cigna. And as I was working with clients, I was taking on the strategy role, and I was also doing analysis for the clients. And I started to hit roadblocks where I was trying to answer business questions that I didn't know how to answer. And I was certain there was a way to answer them. I just didn't have those skills. And so that's where my journey started, to building up the skill set to be able to finally get to the pinnacle of masters in data science.
Wow, very interesting. And I think you matched the two. You're working in marketing, search, paid search, and you kind of matched your data science experience with it and then worked on. This is beautiful. So let's deep dive into the title for today.
Mhm.
We've called it a live data led GTM. What is it and how it impacts revenue? So let's break down the first part. Can you talk us about what exactly is data led GTM? What does it mean for you? Because I feel today we have a lot of words, we have a lot of definitions, and we have a lot of words that mean different things for different people. Even GTM, if you ask different professionals, will mean different things. So what does data led GTM mean for you, and what's your unique approach for data led GTM?
It's a great question. And you're right that, GTM, even the definition of GTM is changing from what it was 5 years ago to what it is today. So what it is developing a strategy using data. So most strategists will develop the strategy based on their many years of experiences, the ideas that the team have, the things that they're reading on the internet. Whereas a data-led strategy is one where you are deep dive analyzing the data in your CRM, and then you're building the strategy off that data. So basically what we do, and what's unique about our approach, is that we look at the data in the CRM as a data science problem. So most business users are going to be used to using the CRM from a dashboard perspective, but a dashboard can give you a limited number of charts, but it's not an analysis. So the second piece is that our analysis is business question driven. So that means that if we're working with a CMO who's trying to increase the number of marketing qualified accounts that they're bringing through, we're going to tackle the analysis from a different perspective than, for example, if we're working with a CRO who wants to understand, how much they can trust the pipeline forecast for the next quarter. So it's those business questions, and when we always anchor back to the question that we're trying to answer, and so then you answer one question and then you move on to the next one, and so as you go, the strategy in many ways reveals itself.
Yes, you're absolutely right. But you talked about CRM data and your CRM data, you know, being the source of truth, for lack of a better word, or like a single source of truth. But a lot of times, data has incorrect stuff, inefficiencies, purely because the person managing it in the last 1 month while they were on their, say, like last 1 month in the company, didn't bother to correctly update the data, and just lack of human. There are human errors, there are data errors. I mean, even when you merge two databases, you're trying to enrich your database, but you end up uh, doing a lot of incorrect entries. So CRM data led strategy is great, but how do you check if your CRM data is correct or not? Are there some steps? And also, when we talked about your introduction, you talked about first party CRM data. Could you talk a little bit more about that as well?
So again, so going back to treating it as a data science problem, the very first and critical part of our process is data cleaning. So we take the client's data and we will go through a rigorous cleaning process where we will look at the key columns and rows, and we'll make sure that they have, that they're complete enough. So we're not going to use any fields that are incomplete. And anything, if there's values missing or if formatting is off, we're going to fix all of that before we begin the analysis. And the other thing is that as we're going through this process, oftentimes we find things in the data that, as you say, we'll bring to the client's attention. But we typically find that, I've worked with clients where in the CRM, they've got, 400 fields, 800 fields. And yes, it's true. Not all of those fields are going to be complete, but for the most part, there's a handful of really core fields that are always going to be at that 99 or 100% completion rate. And those are the fields that we're really relying on. And so, I find that the data quality piece isn't a problem, especially because we have such a rigorous data cleaning process.
That's really great. You talked about some core fields, and I think we have a question, which really matched was I'm going to ask you. So my first question is that what are those core fields which are 90% complete? I understand the email, phone number, but other than address, email, name, phone number, is there any other marker to check the correctness of the data?
So interestingly, we never take the PII data. So we never ingest any data. So we don't take email. We don't take necessarily. Sometimes we'll take name, but company name account is really what we're looking for. And what? Sorry, I missed my train of thought. Can you repeat the question? Where were we going with this?
What are the data
Oh,
points?
the core fields. Yes, got it. Yes. Okay. So really, the core fields are the fields if you think about when you're building your ICP and you've got your technographic and your thermographic fields that you want to know. So geography, or geography in its different iterations. So what I mean by that, country, state, city, revenue. Obviously, you need a unique customer ID. Then you've got you've got fields in the account table that you really care about, and then you've also got fields in the opportunity table that you care about. So your different sales stages, your how long an opportunity has been in the CRM, everything that is going to help you to diagnose the health of the pipeline.
Okay. So basically, so you start with the fields that are filled up. I think geography data is a very important one, is what I understand. And other than that, firmographic, like going deep diving into the account level information, their revenue size, how old is the company, what category or what industry are they operating in, and that kind of helps you understand if the data is correct. And then obviously the individual data. We have so many questions coming in that I'm not able to complete my chain of thought, so I'm going to jump in into the comment
Okay.
section and pick up a question
Okay.
from here.
Okay.
So there's this question on many revenue teams struggle with data hygiene. What minimum data governance and instrumentation steps would you recommend or mandate in the CRM analytics for planning your GTM? So data hygiene, yeah. What are the steps that you would tell? So the gentleman is asking that what do I tell my team that for maintaining data hygiene in the CRM?
So the thing that, in my experience, data teams always have a hard time of it, because they're on the receiving end of, like, they receive the data, they're receiving the final input
Yes.
or output, and they need to do something with it. And so what I have found that has worked best for me is to educate the teams upstream what impact it has when they do not fill in the data, show them how important it is. And then, obviously you always, you're always going to have to chase people. You need a robust process. Unfortunately, that's just the case, that there are some people that aren't going to always follow that process. But if you have the education piece, and if you have critical fields that are just not negotiable, then you can, as you build up that education and you show them the output and what you're using the data for, and they can buy into that, then they'll start to understand the implications of not doing it. Because I think that's what happens most often, is data teams are the ones that are bearing kind of the implications of things not being input correctly, but the
Yeah.
teams upstream don't understand them.
I completely agree. So I think what you're suggesting is basically like a combined approach, like a more interdepartmental kind of a thing wherein everyone is aware that what are the consequences and how much of time and energy it takes to clean up the data when you're not inputting the fields to kind of like, and you lose out on deals. It's like revenue on the table, it's gone. We have two questions,
Mhm.
Marta, which are kind of similar,
Mhm.
so I'm going to read them out. One is,
Mhm.
how do you balance GTM? How do you balance data-driven GTM decisions with human intuition and creativity, especially when the data is incomplete or sometimes misleading? So essentially, if the data is not complete, a lot of times there's this gut feel that oh, these. I mean, like, let me segregate them in this category, X, Y, Z, and because these people SDRs have been working in the industry for a long time. So how do you balance this out? That's the first question. The second one is that, yeah, how do you get teams to stop relying on gut feeling and actually trust CRM data, and when they're making big quarterly pivots? So essentially, how do you balance? And the other person is
Mhm.
asking, how do you tell them not to trust their gut feeling? So the idea is, if you look at both the questions, they come from different thought processes. One person believes that we should not trust gut feeling at all, and but how do I train my team on not trusting gut feeling and actually going with it? The other person is like, it's a genuine problem that people, SDRs and individuals working on data and working on deals, revenue teams, are relying on their creativity, gut feeling, and their instincts rather than actually correcting the data. So how do you balance it out, rather than, because probably solving for it is a longer task and would probably impact revenue in the next couple of months. So what is the correct answer here? What approach? How do you go about it without losing out on revenue and keeping the team
So
morale?
so I think so. It's really interesting. One, so the example that I have in my head is, they often refer to the stock traders on the floor on the stock exchange, how they have that day-to-day experience in the market, and so they they have that gut feel. They know a lot, and just intuitively, if you've been on the floor for 10, 15, 20 years, you have that intuition. Same thing with the SDRs.
Yeah.
So I would say that it's a combination. You never just, you don't necessarily want to just use your data in isolation. You want to have those qualitative conversations with your SDRs, because they're going to give you ideas and they're going to help enhance the strategy that you can go forward with. At the same time, if you have SDRs that have ideas that the data is showing you are not working, then you can bring that data and you can show them, like, look, I know that in the past we've, sold to this industry in this market, but look, in the sales stages, they're stuck in the discovery stage, and the opportunity is 180 days old, but 50% of our pipeline is stuck there. And then so you're using the data to educate. Because then it's not a question of opinions. You're not fighting them with your opinion. You're showing them the data to back up, facts.
Yeah. So I think the balance approach is what you're recommending. And it can't be a clean cut, because they have that experience. You got to respect that experience as well. But at the same time, I mean, I think the idea is that if you can make X, if you have clean data and you keep updating, you can make 5X. So probably that's
Yeah.
the way, that's a good enough motivation. There's another question here, which says, do you recommend a frequency when it comes to updating specific field types in your CRM data?
Oh, I mean, you know, when they say updating, do they mean like adding fields or?
I mean, update checking whether it's correct. I mean, like basically cleaning up the data, or
Mhm.
basically going back and seeing that, the older entries, how frequently should you update them and check if the same contact that you spoke to, probably imagine a deal that you did a
Mhm.
demo with, but it went cold. And then you would obviously want to revisit them, but to check whether that contact is still working in that company or not. I mean, how do you look at that? How frequently should that cleanup process, for lack of a better word, should we be doing on our CRM data?
So so that's I'm not a CRM administrator. I am analyzing the data in the CRMs, but I can give you my perspective. I
Hmm.
think in some ways, one, it's tied to, like, deal hygiene. Is the are the is the data that's tied to your deals still relevant? So
Yes.
that's an SDR question. And then the other one's data hygiene from an analysis perspective. And I would say, you would, if you're committing to doing this type of analysis quarterly, then in that time frame you would be refreshing that, well, making sure that the data is clean. And also, the other thing is that, I'll say, many teams say, oh, we can't use our data because it's dirty, so we have to clean it and then we can use it. But on the flip side, it's when you start using it, that's when you start cleaning it. Because when you start using it for analysis and you start to see what it can give you, then you have that motivation to keep it clean. And so, don't sit on, my data is not clean, because if you can start answering business questions that are going to help develop your strategy and drive revenue, well, then you're going to, you can start with 20 core fields that you always make sure are 100% complete and accurate. And you can build that up as your questions become more sophisticated. As you're trying to answer more questions, you're going to make sure that more fields are complete.
I think that's a beautiful way to look at it. It's not a hard coded frequency, but it's like committing to three fields, five core fields, maintaining that, increasing that. So the frequency is not time centric, but I feel the entire question should be flipped, and it should be, how many fields are you updating, and as a company making sure that it's getting updated and managed. But a quarterly audit definitely makes sense, because every quarter you can work with a data analyst and actually see if, the way you're operating, is it the right way or not, because the market is changing so fast, so many new things are coming. You do one AI plugin with one external database, it might actually end up spoiling your data rather than enhancing it, which was your expectation in the first place. And I've seen that happen firsthand. So that gets me to my question around AI solving for the problem of data cleaning. Now there are a lot of tools out there which claim that, oh, this is plug and play. We have 10,000 databases, and the moment you plug us into your CRM, we'll correct everything, all your older deals, lost deals. We'll create, probably, like, um, we'll create a situation where we'll offer to you like a pipeline worth say maybe $5 million that you were sitting on and you were not even aware about because of incorrect data or incomplete CRM data. Now the question is, does it make sense to work with these AI platforms? How much of a problem is solved by AI, and how much of the problem is a customized solution for every CRM or every company, according to you having worked in this problem?
So I think that, you know, there's so many pieces to this question.
Yes.
So I'm going to start with the piece where, Swati, would you pay a company to clean up your bank statements, and would you give them access into your bank account? Because I feel like that's almost what you're doing if you're letting an AI tool into your CRM.
Oh
Your
my God.
CRM is your business. It's almost like your business bank account. It's your gold mine. It has all of your data. And we've seen just in the last 6 months, we've seen a number of high profile hackings into systems. And so I think from a security standpoint, that it's too early to trust these systems. Even if further down the line, it might be something that could be considered. But the second part of your question was how custom it is. So I would say, there's a lot of standardization in the CRM. One CRM will look very similar to another in terms of like core date fields, core revenue fields, geography fields, that sort of thing. And then you might have custom fields that you're building into your CRM. So there is some percentage of it that can be normalized and is scalable. But I would say that, with what AI is allowing us to do today, it's making it a lot more accessible for companies to build their own cleaning process. So, if in the same way that an AI tool can put together a script or Python script that is going to clean your data, you can work with your data science team, or you could pay you don't have a data science team, you pay a data scientist to build a custom workflow for you. It's not going to cost you thousands and thousands of dollars to do that. And then at least you know that your data is safe. It's your most valuable data.
That's, I think, a very fair point, because the moment you plug into another tool, they get access to your data, and then it kind of becomes a property that they own. There is no law in place, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just complete chaos as on today. I mean, who do you sue? I mean, do you sue the company who's created that AI tool or the person? There's no answer to this. There's a question around, I think CRMs, when we talk about CRM data, we talk about mid-sized companies, enterprises. So there's a question around startups, and I would love to take that up. For
Mm.
startups, what is your advice on processes and protocols that they should focus on right from the start so that they can scale efficiently?
So, startups, they have that. They have the advantage that they're starting fresh, they're starting clean. And so if you can sell this to the different teams that, in some ways touch the CRM, and you can build in some processes and protocols to get the buy-in. You really want to get, it's not about setting rigorous rules and, oh, you must do this, because you're never going to be able to force anyone to do anything. But if you can get the teams to buy in, then from day one, they're building a robust data set, because that is, today and into the future in the AI world, that unique data is their competitive advantage.
Yes. So I think building that out is important. Any playbook, anything that you recommend? I know we've been talking about that if the data is unclean, then what are the consequences? Train the team, make sure that those three categories or five fields or whatever you commit to are getting filled, which was an amazing playbook process to kind of implement in a company which is using CRM data. But for somebody who's building out, who's a scale up, say maybe at a $1 million ARR kind of a stage and going up to 10, that's when they kind of start implementing proper CRM systems. And the data is very unclean in the start. The team is new. There's a lot more agility. What are the processes or anything in particular for B2B companies who are selling B2B? What are the things that, again, is it just technographic data, just account level data? What are the things that you should just not compromise on? Any process playbook there? Any advice there?
So, I think what you don't want to compromise on, if you understand your own business, right? So, for example, if you are a business where borders, aren't, you're not selling at the city level. You're selling across. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you need to make decisions about the level of granularity that makes sense for your business. So
Okay.
if you're selling at a local market, of course you need to go down into that very granular level. If you're selling at kind of the international market, country level, well then that's what you align on. So I would say ask the question, what data do I need to be able to make smart strategic decisions for my business as I move into the future? What questions do I want to be able to answer? Whether it is about, where are my customers? Where is my revenue coming from? And so, customers, where can mean like geography, it can mean industry, it can mean different types of things. And so whatever is important to you as a business, zoom in on those fields and make sure that those are always filled in.
I think this is really great, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm thinking from my business point of view, and we are a B2B SaaS AI agentic platform XYZ, not getting into the details, but actually, is it vertical SaaS that I can sell into? And I think one data point that I have been recently thinking about, not yet started documenting, is the time to close. So the time to close with a particular industry and the time to close versus someone else, and vis-a-vis the deal size. Now that's my opportunity cost because we are a small team. And so if the deal size is X, if it's 3X, then that 3X time makes sense. But if the time is 3X, yet the deal size is just X, it doesn't make mathematical sense. So this is exactly what was going on in my head. And I was thinking that this is the data we need to start capturing: deal size versus which industry and how much of time to close are they taking. So am I in the right direction when I'm talking about these very
The,
unique different pointers?
so those are three fantastic data points. The time to close. So what you would do in order to analyze that. So time to close, it's a continuous number.
Yes.
It's 90, 80,
Yes.
5. And so what you need to do is you would bucket that. So then you would create buckets for that.
Yeah.
And then you could, for example, you would look at it, your buckets versus your sales stages to see, where are your deals sitting in your sales stages versus your buckets. And then you can look at that. And then what you can do is you can look at your buckets and you can look at it by industry. And then you can look at your buckets and you can look at by the average, contract value, as you were saying. So these are incredibly valuable fields, especially when it comes to ascertaining, where does pipeline move, where does it stall, where are you getting the most value, as you were saying as well. So those
Manpower, where do I put my energy, time, all my resources, time and monetary resources? Yeah.
Exactly. And also you'll be able to answer if you understand your baseline data, if you understand where you're strong, and then you're looking at your opportunity data, then you have a better idea of, okay, what is the probability of this closing? Because you understand, okay, this is where I'm strong, but all of my deals are where I'm weak. And then okay, well, this quarter might not be so strong.
Yes, exactly. I mean, this is very interesting. I mean, I was able to, like, kind of, because this question, and that's how interesting. I mean, I love these lives because I get to learn so much. A question came, you answered, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I was just thinking about that. but it was so random and chaotic in my head. But thank you so much that I'm able to now like kind of apply that and like look at that data properly. I think we're already on time. If you have like
Hmm.
2 minutes extra, we
Of
have so
course,
many
I do.
questions, and I love to take up some audience questions again. um, there's this question which Dr. Gurpreet has shared, and if he's talked about if data-led GTM strategies become universally adopted, what do you think is the biggest unforeseen challenge will be for competitive differentiation? Like, how do we really stand out if everyone's talking about it? And you did talk about data scientists building your AI workflows, processes for clean data. Now, imagine that starts happening, and a lot of companies starts adopting that because it's easier to access AI now. You have a good data scientist. So, what is that differentiation factor? Because those 10 fields, if they're updated correctly by companies with the help of AI, with the help of manpower, probably putting in the data, and now we have AI listening tools. A lot of, I mean, today I'm seeing a lot of platforms, agents actually taking in data. We're talking about wearable AI tech. We're talking about literally listening into, like, looking at your emails, all of your conversations, and filling up your CRM data because clearly SDRs are not doing it. So if that starts happening beautifully, how do we stand out? What's the differentiation, and what's the unforeseen challenge, as Mr. Gurpreet talks about, according to you?
So that's a great question. So the nice thing with the data led strategy is that it is on your own data. It's your first party data, which means that unless someone in your company has mistakenly fed your data to AI, then no one else will have access to your data. And even in 2030, your unique proprietary data is still your unique data. But if everybody is taking this data led strategy approach, I think that it's going to be about who is leveraging their data in the most creative ways. How are they using their data to appeal to their customers, to appeal to, and it's not just about prospects, it's also about your existing customers, it's about retention, it's about customer satisfaction, it's about growing your customers. So it's about using your data, in mining it in all the different ways that you can get insights into being smart with your GTM strategy. And so I think if that happens, it'll be great for data scientists because we'll be answering more and more sophisticated questions, and it's going to require more sophisticated analysis to get that.
Yes, I think that's a fair point. Differentiation would always be efficiency. I mean, how great you are at what you do. I think that is something which time will not change. I mean, there is, you gotta be like Michael Phelps or Roger Federer in your field. I mean, like the answer is just that. Probably
Oh,
like what you're talking about, Marta,
y-
right?
you
You
know,
just
I,
gotta
f-
be the
I
best.
feel like I agree with you. I feel like in this world of AI, where AI is the generalist and you can
Yes,
get, generally good enough answers from AI, it really is going to be about everyone being niche and specialist and being the best in their swim lane, because that's when others will be willing to come to you for your services.
exactly. I completely agree. We'll take one last question because that's an interesting one. And we're already on time. And thank you so much because I learned a lot and I can clearly see that the audience learned a lot. So many questions. And all of you guys, please connect with Marta on LinkedIn. And Marta, I would love it if we've not taken some of the questions, if you can take the time to answer them. Or all of you
Happy
guys, set
to.
up some time with her. Do reach out to her, get in touch with her. And if you have the CRM data problem, which I can clearly see quite a few of you might have, please do get in touch with her. So the question is around KPIs, around data-led GTM. And the idea is that should you have like dashboards or some automated reports that you need to build into your CRMs, like which influences weekly GTM decisions or monthly GTM decisions. How do you look at it like a structure is what I'm getting? And what are the KPIs to measure that you are on point in terms of your data-led GTM strategy and your CRM being the single source of truth?
So in terms of dashboard, I mean, we could have another half an hour conversation of where dashboarding is going. Dashboarding is changing completely, and so what I would say is, yes, you need some place where you are obviously collecting data to understand if your strategy is working. Whether that's a dashboard or it's more of an analysis stack, that's a different conversation. But you you know the thing that we focus on with data-led strategy is that we're looking at the bottom line metrics. We're looking at the metrics that actually move revenue. We're not focused on the metrics. They're called vanity metrics today. They have their place when you're trying to optimize a platform, and you're sitting in Google Ads, and you need to look at those specific metrics to help you optimize. But we look really pipeline quality over pipeline volume. So, anyone can fill the pipeline, but are the deals closing? Are they closing faster? Is the average size of the deal moving up? Are you seeing an increase in number of deals in that ICP that you're targeting? And then also, are you seeing the conversion rates between stages increase? So you might be seeing that the deals are typically stuck in specific stages, but are you seeing that is improving? So if you can see movement in all of those areas, and at the end of the day, revenue is that final metric that you're looking for, but you need those moving indicators earlier, because especially in B2B, we're dealing with very long sales cycles. But so I would say that those are the types of things that I'd be focusing on. Specific, the types of fields that you're looking to add into your CRM, those are the fields that are really important.
Bang on. And I would just like to add a point here. There's this revenue architecture framework which Winning by Design has shared. And it's amazing. And it actually talks about the same thing, Marta, that you're talking about, the conversion between, you can call it anything. I mean, I will call something MQL, somebody else will call it a lead, someone else will call it a conversion. I don't know. Like, it can be different nomenclature. But map it out for your company. It might be different for different people. And what is the movement there? Because now that with AI, with such deep level insights, the KPIs are also, the deeper the KPIs, the more nuanced they are, the better is it for you, because you'll be able to answer the difficult questions like Marta mentioned. So thank you so much, Marta, for giving us your time today. All of us
Thank you so
learned
much.
a lot. All of us learned so much from your experience and all the insights that you shared with us. It was like truly, truly amazing. What a valuable half an hour. And we actually extended this by good 7, 8 minutes. Thank you for doing that. And thank you for giving us this extra time. And all of you guys do get in touch with her, connect with her. Thanks again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.